Happy Friday, everybody. It's Bowl Eve. It's Jim, it's Amadeus, and Amadeus. You know, I can't, well, I was going to say I can't wait, but trust me, I can. Bowl season begins tomorrow, my friend, and from now until early January, you're going to get football, whether it's good or bad, every day of the week.
Yeah, it's bowl season, and we got some very good games. Just none of them happen to be going this weekend. So we'll have to wait for the better ones near
Right.
the new year.
Right, right. There might be some interesting ones. From a gaming standpoint, is bowl season something you deal with, or you just kind of like it's a necessary evil, or is it just something that you say, well, you know what, there's not that many people that are interested in?
Oh no,
I'm
there's
talking about
definitely
I'm talking about the
interest.
minor bowls as opposed to, the key ones.
Oh yeah, there's definitely interest. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What the teams are. There's
Hmm.
always interest in betting football, especially if you're giving people games on like a Wednesday night to
Hmm.
bet on. Absolutely, bowl seasons actually it can be very treacherous for handicappers because it's a very busy time of the year already, where you got hockey, both
Hmm.
basketballs, NFL. You have all these different sports going, and now, on top of the normal college football handicapping, you have to be mindful of, who's opting out of bowl games, who's hopping in the transfer portal. So it's like an
Hmm.
extra layer on top of everything else. So yeah, it's very it can be a very treacherous time finding these
Hmm.
bowl games, but there's definitely value to be found. You just really got to dig in deep for it.
One of the other deals which you mentioned a second ago was about watching and being mindful. And you did hit on all the important ones. Who's going to lay out because you're going to be in the NFL draft? Who's going to be, jumping in the transfer portal? But there's another one, and that is that, it's been for some teams a month since they played the last football game. And guys who got banged up toward the end of the season can show up in these bowls. So, guys who were injured, key players who were injured toward the end of the season, are at this point could be eligible to play in these bowl games. So you have to watch that. As I would just add that to the fine list you put together of things you have to pay attention to when it comes to bowl games.
Yeah, definitely. There's a ton of stuff. You could even throw motivation on there
Sure.
for certain teams.
Hmm.
Some teams don't get the bowl game they wanted, so they don't
Right.
try, whereas others are just happy to be there, so they give it
Hmm.
their all. And you also have situations where you got to look at the head coaching too, right? A lot of guys are
Hmm.
getting
Sure.
fired or leaving for better jobs this time of
Right.
year, so you got to be mindful. If a team lost their coach, how motivated are the kids to
Right.
finish out the bowl game, knowing this guy abandoned us before we even
Right.
finished the bowl game, really, as most of them do. So yeah, it's definitely one of those. There's so much to watch with these bowl games.
Hmm.
That's why I say it can be a very treacherous time.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And you have to be careful, and we hope that people, are careful when it comes to that. And I think the fun part of the bowl games too is when you get some Power Five matchups against some group of five teams, and that's where you get some. I mean, last year we know that Tulane took it to USC, and that was in the Cotton Bowl. So this year, there's matchups, there's things to be found, and games to be played, and we'll have to check it out. Matter of fact, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow and what we got on the calendar for tomorrow in the college football bowls for Saturday, and there's we talked about them not being necessarily some interesting ones, but there is some interesting matchups.
The
And let's
2023 college football playoff is here, and the Rose Bowl kicks off in
and
semifinals.
and
It's time
this
for one of
is
your favorites to
audio
settle
which
down
we
for
don't need.
Alabama.
So let me
Here's what you need to know about
stop
the
it.
game.
We don't need to know it from you. Thank you very much. All right. So here's what we got. We got tomorrow morning, okay, in Conway, South Carolina, at 11 a.m., it's the Myrtle Beach Bowl. That'll be Georgia Southern against Ohio of the MAC. So there you got that bowl. 11 a.m. In South Carolina. You know, you want breakfast or brunch or whatever you want to call it. There's your bowl game. 11 a.m. This could it could be the third or fourth quarter before these two teams wake up.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one, obviously, because Ohio, they've had a quarterback for about 4 years now in Curtis Rourke, and he has decided to hop in the transfer portal now and
Mm-hmm.
finish out his last season at another school. So
Right.
you don't see that often, especially when he's been there for 4 years. But yeah, he's a guy, so he's not going to be playing in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that'll be something to watch. And again, speaking with the motivation thing, you got to look at
Mm-hmm.
this Ohio team. Like a lot of them pegged them as the best team in the MAC coming into the
Mm-hmm.
season, and they didn't even make it to the MAC championship. So you really got to wonder: is this a game they care about winning? They wanted to be
Right.
playing 2 weeks ago, right? And they didn't make it to that game. So
Mm-hmm. It happens. Okay, that's on ESPN. Now here's the bowl game. It's called the Celebration Bowl. It's noon in Atlanta, Georgia, being played at the Mercedes-Benz Dome there. It's on ABC, and this one always is a good one. It's traditionally the two best, HBC um, teams, and this is Florida A&M and Howard. And FAMU has really done well in the past couple of years. Coach Larry Scott and what he's done there is pretty good, no question about it. Howard from Washington D.C., another fine school. So there's this one is going to be competitive because there's serious bragging rights. This is basically the HBC national championship game.
yeah, it's good FCS matchup. Personally, I don't know too much about these two teams, so if you're looking to
Mm-hmm.
bet on the game, maybe find an opinion from somebody who knows the FCS well. But yeah, the one thing I can tell you about this game is FAMU's a 7-point favorite coming in.
Well, that's enough for right now. Um, and FAMU is has been over the past few years one of the more dominant schools in the HBC, and and Howard, Howard has had its moments, and so we'll see how it plays out for them. But that one, as I said before, is uh, for them. It's a national championship game. It's a nationally televised game, which is not doesn't happen often, and it's a noon start. So it's FAMU against Howard, noon on ABC. The New Orleans Bowl, which is at 2:15 on ESPN, obviously right after the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Jacksonville State and Louisiana. So traditionally, this has been good for the coaches and the players because a lot of these coaches go on to either larger Power Five jobs or to Group of Five jobs. This has been a good stepping stone bowl for those kind of coaches. So there you go on that one.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
Go ahead.
Rich Rod has definitely been one of those
Yeah.
hot names thrown out all year just because of the
Hmm.
job he's done at Jacksonville State. And yeah, this is
Hmm.
one little interesting matchup just because obviously Jacksonville State, you got to be thinking, has a ton of motivation here
Hmm.
that in their first year up from FCS, the
Hmm.
season they're having, they would love to cap it off here. But this is one where, yeah, all bowl games are played on a neutral site, but you got to pay attention to some local sometimes because you're getting Louisiana Lafayette playing in the New Orleans Bowl here, so they don't even have to leave the state.
It's a
And
90-minute drive.
yeah, and you can imagine how many fans from each school are going to be showing up. What the majority will be in that one, just because of the location. So again, another thing to keep mind of.
A good point because I'll tell you what, just like the Celebration Bowl, they're getting to play, you know, the stadiums that they play in are fine stadiums. They're smaller stadiums. Um, they're playing the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta, in the big dome where the SEC plays their championship game, where um, there's been Super Bowls. I mean, it's stepping in. Same thing in New Orleans. These two schools are stepping into not only a nationally televised bowl game, and as you said, can you imagine kids from Louisiana and from Jacksonville State for that matter, how many games they've watched of the New Orleans Saints or other teams playing in that stadium, and to actually now be able to get on the turf out there is has got to be quite exciting for the players.
Yeah, definitely. That's why, yeah, the motivation could definitely be a
Yeah,
factor in this one as well.
absolutely. Okay, one of three bowls in the city of Orlando starts tomorrow, and that's going to be Miami of Ohio against App State in the Cure Bowl. That obviously is the back end of the doubleheader on ABC. That's a 3:30 kick, and it is Miami of Ohio taking on App State.
Yeah, another interesting matchup. Like I said, the games aren't great, but definitely just some interesting matchups
Mm-hmm.
because obviously we have Miami, Ohio here, who's fat and happy off winning the MAC championship, and they're playing an App State team who feels like there's some unfinished business after losing in their Sun Belt championship to
Mm-hmm.
Troy. So this could be another one where the motivation is a big factor.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on. This is you're talking about um, we're talking about home cooking, right? You don't get much more home cooking than this one. It's the New Mexico Bowl being held in Albuquerque. Fresno State, who personally, I think they're probably a bit pissed off that they didn't do better this year, taking on New Mexico State. Again, a short trip for New Mexico State to play in the bowl named after them. 5:45 on ESPN.
Yeah, so hilarious matchup here just because New Mexico State is the designated road team in this one.
Right.
So just could have planned that one out a bit better. But I think the bigger story here is this is where it all started for our guy Jim.
Yeah.
He pissed on this New
On the
Mexico
logo.
logos, yeah, all
Right.
over this field
Yeah.
weeks ago, and it sent them to the Conference USA Championship.
Right.
Now they didn't win, but this is still a 10-win team. This is where it all started, so it'll be interesting to see what Diego Pavia does here at the lovely. Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if he pees on the logo again.
Yeah. Just for good luck. So there's that one.
Or maybe
Now,
that's a victory thing, right?
yeah, okay.
Victory
I
pee
think
after they
I'm
win the
not sure
game.
that ESPN's looking forward to that. Taking that shot. 7:30 prime time. The LA Bowl. UCLA, Boise State on ABC. That's being played at SoFi. You gotta believe it's kind of funny because these two teams are blue. And the stadium is pretty blue because of the fact that the Rams and the Chargers play there. It's not a bad. It's actually a shorter trip for UCLA to play at SoFi than it is for them to play where they normally play, which is out the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. So this is about 15 minutes closer to campus. But I don't think there may be that many UCLA people traveling to Inglewood to watch the game against Boise State. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure Boise State, who didn't win the Mountain West, um, is going to be pretty geeked out about playing UCLA.
Yeah, it's funny, Jim. You took the point right out of my mouth with the SoFi Stadium being closer to the UCLA campus. Yet they'll still have no fans show up for the
Right.
game. But yeah, another one here where pretty much the home team is the designated road team somehow,
Right.
and Yeah, UCLA had a very interesting end to the season. Obviously, they lost that final game against Cal. It was a meaningless game for them. I mean, the whole second half of the season has been pretty meaningless. Meanwhile, the Boise State's got to be riding a high here. They fire their head coach and then
Mm,
proceed to make a run to the Mountain West Championship, which they win on the road in Las Vegas, and they got
mm.
to be feeling great about themselves. I think obviously the players are getting up for the coach, and this might be one where Boise State takes down UCLA.
Hmm. The last bowl of the day returns to the state of Louisiana in Shreveport, where the Independence Bowl will be played. And this one matches the is the only matchup of the day of two brand name Power Five conference teams. Texas Tech representing, of course, the Big 12. Cal representing for at least a couple more weeks the Pac-12. They'll be moving on to the ACC next year. These are two teams. Now, Texas Tech, you could say, had a bit of a disappointing year. I think a lot of people thought Texas Tech would do better than they did in the Big 12. Meanwhile, you got Cal, who nobody saw heading to bowl eligibility, but the Bears showed up, and so is this a game where Cal can kind of put a cap on a better than expected season against the Texas Tech Red Raider team?
Yeah, another one where you got to look at the motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cal, as you said, they weren't looking great, but they had a strong end to the season. They needed to win some games, and they won those games, especially when it came down to their final game of the season. They beat a team like UCLA, who had one of the better defenses in the Pac-12 for most of the year. So they showed up when they needed to show up just to make it to this game. Meanwhile, yeah, Texas Tech, you got to be wondering where the motivation is at there, just because they're a team that had such high expectations coming into the season. You lose your quarterback like 3 weeks in. Then the injuries start piling up. The rest of the season just completely falls apart on you. And then yeah, you get to your final game where you played Texas and you didn't even show up in a 57-7 loss. Probably part of the
Right.
reason why you made Texas look so good and why they got the playoff bid, because they're just blowing out teams that aren't showing up. Yeah, how Texas Tech is a 3.5 point favorite here beats me, because I don't know what their motivation would be to win this game, other than maybe just to I don't know, make amends with a terrible season that was plagued by a lot of injuries. But I would think Cal wants to win this game.
Oh, 100%. All right, so that's your bowl schedule for day one of Bowl Mania. Meanwhile, we have our first full slate of Saturday games. All of these games, by the way, should you wish to watch them, will be on the NFL Network. So here in the United States, I assume it's the NFL Network in Canada as well.
Yeah, it is the NFL Network, but I think again it's licensed by TSN to show.
Okay, so TSN gets to air it.
Yeah.
So, all right, the first one, the kickoff at 1 o'clock, is all these games, by the way, have playoff implications, which stunning surprise there. Uh, Minnesota at Cincinnati. That's going to be Chris Rose on the call and Jason McCourty doing that for the NFL Network. Minnesota, Cincinnati. I think, I think that it's one of those things. It's being played in Cincinnati. You got to favor. I think you got to favor Cincinnati in this one, don't you?
Yeah, they're a 3 point favorite here. This is a bit of a weird one, just because obviously the Vikings are coming off that 3-0 win. But I think the fact that it was Nick Mullins that led the
Mm-hmm.
game winning field goal drive, you're probably going to see him start this week. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't know what the Vikings look like with Nick Mullins. So we
This is
just
true.
don't, right? Like, we haven't
Yeah.
seen him in this offense. It's been, we've seen Jaron Hall, we've seen Josh Dobbs, we've seen Kirk Cousins, we've seen everybody in this offense but Nick Mullins, except for that one drive. So it's going to be very interesting. They're on the road here. Obviously, the Bengals have revived life with Jake Browning, and sitting
Right.
at 7-6, they got to be thinking they can make a wild card run here if they run the
Hmm.
table, and they're at home. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting game to watch for sure. I think, as you said, big playoff implications because the Vikings are 7-6 as well, and they're in a much weaker NFC. So
Hmm.
7-6 gives them a much better chance. They're actually in a wild card spot where the
Right now.
Bengals are
Right.
last in their division with the same record.
Right. This one, again, parroting what I just said, and that is playoff implications. But this one, you got two teams that are banged up and two second string quarterbacks. Pittsburgh at Indianapolis, Richie Eisen and Kurt Warner on the call for that one.
Yeah, so we were all over that Steelers Patriots over last week, but I didn't think Trubisky was just gonna lay an egg the way he did. Like
Oh,
I was on the Patriots. I thought they were gonna
yeah,
cover it and even win the game, but I didn't
right.
think they were gonna do it in the fashion where Trubisky was gonna turn the ball over on every play. So that being said, I mean, like I said, we've seen him in this offense before. I'm
Right.
sure he'll bounce back. He was also on a shorter week there,
Yeah,
right? Like
right, right,
it
fair.
was
Yeah.
one of those where he got thrown in the last game because Pickett
Hmm.
gets injured, and now he wasn't really expecting to be starting 4 days later.
Right.
So what? Now he's got that extra 3 day rest. So he's on like a 10 days to prepare. I think we're going to see a better Trubisky here. And the Colts, again, they're in that AFC. They're 7-6, but that
Hmm.
competitive AFC. So yeah, this home game is definitely a must win for them if they want to. I mean, I guess the Steelers are also 7-6. So
Yeah.
yeah, big must win for both of these teams.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Steelers have the better defense. The Colts can't stop anybody, but I mean, the Colts have had a more consistent offense this year. So
True.
could be a very exciting game on Saturday afternoon.
Well, and the other thing with Mitch is he's had of that 10-day layoff, he's had 7 days of practice with the frontline team, which he would not have had when Kenny Pickett was there. So that might help him too. The nightcap Saturday night is Detroit hosting Denver again. NFL Network. Kevin Harlan making a trip over to do that game for NFL Network along with Trent Green.
Gotta say, I love these Saturday games, Jim. Like they may not be
Hmm.
the sexy matchups, but they're
Yeah.
definitely exciting matchups
Hmm.
from a standpoint of what these teams need to do. You don't really have any teams that are dead in the water here,
Hmm.
and look at the Broncos here. If the Chiefs lose another game and the Broncos keep winning, you could have the Broncos winning the AFC West over the Chiefs, and I think they know that, and they're playing obviously one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. They actually come in as a 4.5 point dog against the Lions, who have slowly been unraveling over the last
Hmm.
month. So it'll
Right.
be interesting. It's a good thing they got those 9 wins early in the season because it might just be enough to win the division at this point. They have a pretty stronger schedule coming down the line. So
Yeah. It's
another
gonna be
interesting
wild.
game.
All right, let's move to Sunday. Let's go to the CBS games first. These are your 1 o'clock games. The Jets are in Miami, and you know what? Um, Back a couple weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we might have said, you know, the Jets, don't even have a prayer against Miami this week, and this time, Miami, uh, the Jets defense is playing pretty good, and we'll have to see. Miami's had some trouble with good defenses. Jim Nance and Tony Romo on the call.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game. I will say I think it's an awful spot for the Jets just because
Hmm.
a little bit of recency bias with the way Zach Wilson destroyed the Texans at home.
Sure.
Now they got to go on the road and bake it in the Miami sun there on the
Hmm.
sideline. Not to mention the fact that you're getting a Dolphins team that is coming off a loss at home in the
Hmm.
worst possible fashion, a very close loss in a game they were
Hmm.
leading. So they're just going to be pissed off here. They're at home again. This might just be a they laid it on them 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
on Black Friday. This could be another game that's very similar to that.
Man. Tampa Bay on the road at Green Bay. Baker Mayfield and the boys traveling up there to Green Bay. It's not going to be snowy. It'll be chilly. It'll be windy, but it's not going to be not going to be a problem. Now Baker played in Cleveland, so I'm not. I don't think he's too adverse to playing in the bad weather. So we'll have to check that out. But uh, um, that game is at Green Bay. It's on CBS. Already, Andrew Carlone, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan on the call for CBS.
Yeah, no play for me on this one. I mean, I would lean the Packers at home, but I don't think I
Right.
really don't think they're a good team. And I'm sitting with a Buccaneers ticket to win the NFC South, so I need them to win this game. I'm just gonna sit back with my NFC South ticket and hope for the best here.
And pray for it. Okay, here we go. Houston, Tennessee. Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta on that game for CBS. Um, you know, without C.J. Stroud, Houston is just an average team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because they obviously they've been we feel like they've been overachieving this year just
Right.
with the
Hmm.
way that their young players are playing. They're overperforming, but
They're
Davis Mills.
tracking well. I mean, they're tracking, to a point where you're going to say, well, Houston's going to have to be a team to be reckoned with. But they're in a division where there are a bunch of teams that are like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the Texans, you don't know what kind of team they're going to be without CJ Stroud. Just because
Sure.
is that going to take is the locker room going to take a hit because their quarterback's not there, right? Maybe they're a
Hmm.
little bit deflated, or maybe they rally behind Davis Mills. They know that
Hmm.
he had a full season last year and it wasn't
Right.
awful for the
No,
team.
no.
So he's definitely a competent starter. Maybe they look at it like, hey, we're still in this. It's just
Hmm.
one game. Let's rally behind him. So yeah,
Right.
this is going to be an interesting game, especially the way they got embarrassed by the Jets of all
Hmm.
teams last week. So it seems though CJ Stroud, he's had some trouble against these younger quarterbacks because if you
Right.
look at their losses, right? They lost to
Hmm.
Bryce Young, gave them their only win of the season.
Hmm.
He's got a loss to Zach Wilson and the Jets. So
He thinks he's
some
back in college. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, something to think about there. He beats the veterans,
Right.
but he can't beat the
His.
younger guys.
I was going to say his fellow classmates.
Yeah, in his
Yeah.
age range there.
Right. All right. Excuse me. San Francisco, our Super Bowl team, at your Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, don't even ask me about this one.
All right, we'll pass.
You know I hate the Cardinals.
Andrew Carlone, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan. By the way, just in case you want to, this is definitely a friends and family game because only the state of Texas, and by the way, not all the state of Texas, and basically the Nashville part of Kentucky and most of Tennessee will get this game. That's the only parts of the country that are going to see it. So, as I said, this is not a lot of people watching that game, Houston and Tennessee. And of course, the game's being played in Nashville. We talked about San Francisco and Arizona. That going to be an interesting game. And this one, I'll tell you what, I'm sure that most of the country will be watching this. Washington at the Rams. That's the late game. The other late game on CBS. Tommy McCarthy making a trip down from Philadelphia. No, actually, they're out. They're playing a game out in SoFi. So Tom McCarthy flying out there. James Lofton and Jay Feely on the call on CBS. That's your game on the late game. I don't think there's much that needs to be said about that one.
I like the Rams. That's what I'll say. I like the
All right,
Rams.
fair enough.
Played 6.5. They have something to play for. The Commanders, I think, have given up on the season. Heck, maybe they'll be in Virginia with the Wizards and the Capitals come next year.
Yeah, I wouldn't cash that ticket of Wizards and the Capitals going to Virginia yet. That's one of those lovely possibilities, but don't not so fast. Kansas City at New England. That's the A game on Sunday for Fox. Joe Davis and Moose. Daryl Johnson is on the call for that one.
How is anything
You
with the
know,
Patriots an A game?
I don't know, but that's where they're sending Joe and Daryl, so that's what it is.
All right.
I mean, I don't know what to say about this. I mean, Kansas City should win this
I mean,
game.
I guess it's better than Giants Saints, but I don't know why they wouldn't want to, highlight
Well,
Cutlet Fever right
funny
now.
that you would bring that up because that's the next game on the list. Yeah, yeah, that's one of those ones where if you catch it, it'll be on the red zone. You don't want to actually
I guess
necessarily watch it.
they want the Taylor Swift action on Fox. That's definitely what it is. But honestly, I think you'd get better ratings with Cutlet Fever right now. Just saying.
Right, wouldn't necessarily be a thing. New York Giants. Whoa, Mr. DeVito heads to New Orleans. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma on that call.
Yes, Mr. Cutlets and his agent Gelato. We're ready to
Right.
go.
It's funny.
Yeah, this one I'm gonna lay it with the Saints.
Mhm.
I think that this is a game where the Saints they haven't looked great, but they blew out the Panthers last week. I know the Panthers are trash, but I don't think the Giants are a great team. Yeah, they've won 3 straight, and they have a little hype behind them now with Cutlet Fever there, Mr. Tommy DeVito. But
Right.
I was all over the Giants to beat the Packers on Monday. Now I think this is the spot to fade him. His last 3 games. So they won their 3 straight, but they played was the Packers they beat, not a good team. They beat the Patriots, not a good team. And then the one road game he played in, they beat the Commanders, not a good team. And, Washington, not a great environment. Now he's starting on the
Right.
road in the Caesars Superdome. A little bit of a
Right.
different environment here.
Whole lot of different from that standpoint. Here's what I was going to ask you in this game. I would, depending upon the number, I think the under's probably the way to go in this, don't you? I mean, these two teams have good defenses.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
the totals,
New Orleans has a good defense. Yeah.
I mean, the Giants have been playing better defense lately for sure.
Yeah, true.
The totals in this one is 39, and I'll be honest with you. There's multiple games this week with totals in the 30s. If I'm just counting them quickly here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 games on Sunday have totals in the 30s. Plus the Thursday night game was a 34.5. So yeah, we have some very low totals this week. It seems like the books think there's going to be a lot of unders.
Speaking of unders, Chicago at Cleveland. Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez on that one. Cleveland, I mean, Cleveland's been playing well. Joe Flacco at quarterback. This is one of those games where Cleveland needs to win. We already said earlier in the week that we thought that they have a chance to be one of the teams that lands in a playoff spot. And they need to beat teams like Chicago to get there.
Yeah, another one of these games with the total in the 30s. But yeah, definitely the Browns are in the best position to make the playoffs right now because they have the game up on all the other wild card teams. And really, this is their chance before they start finishing the division schedule. So they need to really, in case they drop any of those games, they need to win this game. And on the bright side for them, you got a quarterback that's playing for his career right now. He thought he was going to be on the couch all year. Now he's been given the chance and he's going to play. And from what I hear, with the contract that the Browns just gave him so nobody could sign him off their practice squad, there's actually an incentive there for game. Every time he wins a game, he gets an extra 75 grand or something like that. So,
well, Joe's, I mean, in fairness to, to those out there wondering, wow, this is really nice that Joe's doing this and picking up the extra cash. Joe could have sat on his couch and collected, he's already, cash checks worth approximately $90 million. So, I like to see it because I like Joe. He's a nice guy and he's a good dude. So from that standpoint, it is. From a standpoint of whether he makes 75,000 or $75, I really don't care about that part, but I do care to see him win, and this will be a good opportunity. Atlanta is in, just like the Bucks and the Saints, they're in must wins the whole way, the rest of the way. They're in Carolina this week. Adam Amin and Mark Schlereth on the call for Fox. Um, should be interesting how that works with Atlanta at Carolina.
Yeah, especially since these two met up in the first game of the season this year, and obviously the
Yeah.
Falcons won that one in a big way. So these two teams are very different, though, at this point in the year. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we've had not the same coach for the Panthers, and the Falcons have benched two different quarterbacks up to this point. So
Right.
yeah, neither team is
What are
playing
you
great.
gonna do,
I
right?
think.
There you go. All right, the late game on Fox is we had a 1 o'clock A game. The A game, which is the doubleheader game, is Dallas at Buffalo. That's Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson on the call for that game.
Yeah, that's probably the game of the Sunday. I mean, from a matchup standpoint, there's not really two elite teams like that going, unless you want to count the Sunday night game. But I would think this one's a little bit better. I think.
I think it's got teams that people know. I don't think a lot of people who are not the casual fans know much other than who Lamar Jackson is. I'm a Baltimorean who, you know, I always said Trevor Noah. Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback at Jacksonville. So the game's being played at Jacksonville. Okay, Sunday night. The one thing I will say, and there's going to be some dicey weather coming into the East Coast, specifically into Florida, and it's some serious rain and wind, which would have been an issue for Tampa Bay had they played that game, at home against against the folks from Green Bay. But Jacksonville and Baltimore, just keep an eye out if you're going to bet that game. Keep an eye out for the rain and for the weather itself, because that could be a factor in that game against Baltimore.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see. I mean, that it is going to be a good game. Those two are probably the best games. So they didn't give us a clunker on the Sunday night.
Right. Well, they flexed that one. That was the first one they flexed.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect. That's why we're getting a good one. But then again, I mean, the Thursday night last night was a false clunker. So who would have thought that, right?
Okay. The Chargers, score 3 points in that game against the Raiders, and they score 63 points last night.
See, I kind of thought the game would be an over because I thought there was going to be an overcorrection, right? There's such a
Well, you were right about that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Recency bias is a big thing, especially in
Right.
the NFL. So everybody's going to see that 3-0 game, and they're going to automatically bet under for both the Raiders and the Vikings this week.
Sure.
But, when a team, especially from the Raiders standpoint, when a team gets shut out, you have to expect a response. These are professional players. So 63 is a little bit much. I don't think anybody on the planet had 63-21 exact score in that one. But I will say, thank you, Raiders, because I was able to cash some live bets in that one. When I saw them go up 14-0, I said, if it's going to be that kind of game, let me just start taking Raiders. I'll take some Jacoby Myers, some Devontae Adams, anytime touchdown. Got plus 260 on both. And eventually they got there. It took a while because they scored. Handing the ball to Brandon Bolden gets a touchdown. Every Raider got a touchdown, even the defense.
couple of the cheerleaders got touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm
you know.
surprised we didn't like dress up. And they love the interim coach so much. I'm surprised we didn't put Antonio
Right.
Pierce out there and say, "You're not playing linebacker this time. Go, okay, you're
Yeah,
fullback.
go
run
ahead.
it in."
Right, take it in from a yard out. Yeah, that would have been wild. But yeah, it was one of those games where one team, in the case of they broke the over themselves. They didn't have to worry about it. So interesting stuff. All
That's two
right.
straight Thursdays where the
Yeah.
total was over by halftime.
Oh man, that's just crazy. All right. Big weekend coming up. Why don't you let people know? As we keep pitching this to folks, and gang, we hope that you do it because it makes sense. Give the gift of Amadeus for stocking stuffers. Go ahead and buy those premiums from Amadeus, and you may have a little extra money to spend on the holidays.
Yeah, I'm very hot right now. I'm up 30 units since the start of November, so having a very
Wow.
good month and a half stretch here. Make sure you check
Hmm.
out my premium plays at bigal.com, at pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. All those links are in the description below.
Hmm.
Coming off a 1-2-1 day, so not a great, but all the losses came on the pitch. I'm looking to bounce back today, though. I got two soccer plays up, one in 2 minutes, and the other one at 3. If you can get that, and it's a Liga and a City A play. But I'll have tons of soccer over the weekend
Hmm.
too. I've been hot in soccer since going back to November as well.
Hmm.
And my big run right now, I got a college basketball for later tonight. No NBA, but I will have some NBA over the weekend. I'm on a 20-3 NBA run right
Wow.
now after cashing the Sacramento Kings last night.
Hmm.
And even college, I'm on a 56 or 57-36 run right now for 16 units.
Oof.
So yeah, go get my college basketball play tonight, and I'll have tons in football, basketball, and soccer up for the weekend as well.
Well done, my friend. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Plenty of stuff to watch on TV. By the way, if you're a golf fan, Tiger and Charlie Woods will be playing golf this weekend. The old father and son team in the PNC Classic, which is being held over the weekend in Orlando. So, if you have some downtime between games, or just want to check something out during halftime, you can catch all that action on Peacock and NBC all weekend long. So check out some golf if you want to see how Charlie and Tiger are playing. I think a lot of the folks I know that are setting to watch that game that tournament, talking about the fact that Charlie may have a better score at the end of the day than his father, but we'll see. He's played well at that course over in Orlando, so we'll have to check it out. But yeah, plenty of stuff to watch over the weekend. We hope that you have a good time. And any parting thoughts, Amadeus, before we move on out of here?
No, let's just let's have a winning weekend.
There you go. There you go. And as Rye says, cash the tickets, right?
Exactly. Let's cash the tickets. Good old Rye Cave. Shout out to him.
There you go. All right. Well, we want to thank Matthew, Kian, and Luke, all of who joined us today. Greatly appreciate. Always like to have some people who contribute to the show. So thanks very much for all three of you guys for coming aboard, and come back and bring friends. Okay. Okay, everybody. Have a nice day. We'll see you on Monday.